Dear students, let us start the discussion on 15th February 2016 newspaper. The first article is related to the universities and the space for dissent in the universities. Recently, students from JNU were charged with sedition and were arrested. In this context, what is the space for the universities in Indian education system? How they are transforming shall be the point of our discussion. What shall be the governmental action towards them? You know that across the world, universities are the spaces for the social transformation and political dissent. So everywhere, they shall have a freedom of expression and a space for dissent and debate. They shall be the spaces of learning, critical thinking, live debate, political understanding, and a reason on structural injustices, and they have to find a way out of this. It means that the sense of justice and injustice and argument about right and wrong, this debate is the place, or this debate has to occur on the grounds of the universities. But it shall not take a recourse to the violence. So in this context, let's understand the sedition charges. Section 124A of Indian Penal Code, it provides for these sedition charges. It was a colonial law and it was repealed in UK itself, where it has originated in 2009. But still we go ahead with this sedition law. And Supreme Court of India clearly stated that in Kedarnath versus State of Bihar case, sedition law can only be applied whenever there is an incitement to violence and not in the other cases. In this, the 19(1)(a), that is freedom of speech and expression, was always a victim because of these sedition charges. So the state has to understand there is a difference between anti-state and anti-national action. There is a difference between dissent and treason. So in this context, the section 124A of Indian Penal Code shall go towards the treason and anti-national action, not against the anti-state action. And again, if you specific to the JNU issue, it has been clearly stated that the students organization, or JNU Students Union, All India Students Federation, its speech is more against the state, and there is no constructed evidence that it has led to incitement of violence or anti-national feelings. So from that perspective, Hindu says that so the democracy is always evolving. So this evolution happens on the basis of dissent and debate, and there shall be a space for it. Now, the retrospective tax issues. So with regard to this, from the present government, we have few things to answer over here. In the insurance sector, and then with regard to the aviation sector, everywhere there is a reform agenda which is going on actively. During the first budget, Mr. Jaitley, he has announced for a strong reform agenda through FDIs. During the previous second budget, he was talking about competitive biofederalism and bringing the states on board along with the center towards the reform agenda. Now, there are few issues which are grappling India. One is related to the GST and development of a common market, land acquisition law. So these ease of doing business index can improve once these are taken forward. And also another issue is related to the retrospective tax issues. So these are disturbing the investor climate in India. As quick as possible, the finance minister need to address these issues. Another thing the finance minister was talking about today is the banking sector reforms. Yesterday, RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan has conducted asset quality review, and the profits of the PSU banks has come down drastically. So in this context, the stressed assets of the banks have increased manyfold. So in this context, let us try to understand that autonomy of the banks is very much important, and professional conduct of the banks away from the state interference will lead to their better evolution. So, fixation of the responsibility can only happen when you give the autonomy. At the same time, there are many social responsibilities for the banking sector, that is financial inclusion, leading or increasing their reach to the rural areas, etc. It is the biggest dilemma how to take forward the bank reforms along with these social objectives. Now, the war in Syria, you know, no war is good. In Syria, it has led to more than 49%, 45% of the people getting displaced, 4.5 lakh people died, and more than 1.9 million people injured. So those are the human cause of the war. So in this context, USA and Russia, they always had a different opinions with regard to the war in Syria. USA was talking about more on supporting the anti-Assad rebels along with Turkey and Saudi Arabia. On the other hand, Russia came in direct action in support of Mr. Assad forces. The Russia wants to protect the state structure with or without Assad. On the other hand, United States of America also realized that the state structure has to be retained in Syria. If not, it will become chaotic and it leads to the rise of the Islamic State. So this has brought in a common ground between them. And the recent Munich agreement, they agreed for ending the hostilities within a week. Here, bringing together Assad and rebels, Assad supported forces and rebel supported forces towards the table is the major hiccup, and it is the major challenge. Now, human trafficking. If you see Operation Smile 1, Smile 2, Muskurat, these are the specially focused operations to protect the women from the trafficking. So in this context, the center is talking about a nodal agency to end this human trafficking, which is a welcomeable step. On the other hand, women rights. Now, always I said to you, gender and development are intricately connected. So the economic growth, it leads to the betterment of the women, which will further facilitate the economic growth. So in this context, the challenge in India is this. The women and their work is totally unidentified and unaccounted for. So in this context, what we can say is the women empowerment and their ability to organize comes from the economic independence. This economic independence also changes the gender relations within and outside the home. So, the economic agency is the most enabling element or enabling factor for the women from existing societal oppression, violence, discrimination, and sense of powerlessness. So, the state has to make every effort towards this economic empowerment, and the legal and institutional structures have to be changed to facilitate the economic empowerment of the woman. And Indian gravity wave detection 8 years away. Now, India is also building a LIGO-like detector. It is called India LIGO or Indigo. So LIGO stands for Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory. So the Prime Minister also gave his nod. It appears that it will take another 8 years for the identification of the right place and to install this particular system to take forward the research on physics in India. So these are the important articles for today. Thank you very much and all the best. Hope you enjoyed the NCERT test yesterday, and try to do more tests. Yesterday's test is centered around 6th, 7th, 8th class notes, 8th class textbooks. Thank you very much.